Everybody exploiting black folks. Right now, while I was driving over here, everybody's hitting me up. I got like 100 text messages. People want my opinion on the Deion Sanders situation. Allegedly, because I haven't seen a news report, Deion is about to leave HBCU Jackson State in Mississippi to go work at University of Colorado or Colorado State. And he's taking his son with him, who's the quarterback. Allegedly, because I haven't seen this. So people are saying, was this a bad move? Now, on the surface, if appearances are reality, Deion Sanders is wrong. You have no business going to an HBCU, having our people endear themselves to you because it looks like you want to elevate the quality of HBCUs and their football teams using your reputation as a celebrity standout, one of the greatest football players of all time, which I thought was a movement that would get other black retired ex-NFL greats to coach at HBCUs. And so collectively, you're raising the quality of the HBCU, you're making them more marketable, and you're attracting better high school athletes to the HBCU, which will allow these schools to charge more money for their football games and basketball games to offset the deficits that a lot of HBCUs are struggling from financially. So I thought Deion Sanders was a part of a movement to revolutionize the athletic programs and thereby the finances of the HBCU. But if Deion Sanders leaves Jackson State for Colorado, which only has 1.6% black student population, and take your son with you, if that's what this is about, then Deion Sanders may have to go down as one of the greatest traitors in black America, because you are abandoning a movement to reinvent the HBCU, to bring them the money that they so desperately needed, and now you're going to abandon them and go to a white school, which begs the question, did Deion Sanders only come to Jackson State so he could improve his skills as a coach to only get recruited by a white college? In other words, did you use us? Did Deion Sanders use the black community and use the HBCU legacy just as a springboard to get hired at a white university? And if that's the case, if he only went to Jackson State to give his football playing son the coverage and attention that he needed to expand his career, then Deion Sanders is guilty of treason against the black community.
Okay, I kind of want to segue a little bit. I just got two more questions for you. So right now, perhaps to me, a greater enemy almost than racism seems to be fascism.
Okay.
And it's kind of like people like yourself, people like Kanye West, people like Alex Jones. When you guys speak truth, and that's not to say everything that comes out is true, but when you guys speak truth, they'll try to put a label on you. Xenophobic, homophobic, white supremacists, and those are very real issues, but it ain't that they're all like arbitrary, like it's like who they want to single out versus having everybody filtered. Because I noticed the people at the top who's really creating those systems, they never get canceled. It's only the people that they select. Why do you think that is going on? Why do you think that they're able to do this, especially with our First, Second, and Third Amendment rights? Why are they so easily able to deplatform? And now it's even they can cancel your Uber, your DoorDash. It's like ridiculous. Like it's almost like some 1984 kind of stuff.
Okay.
What's your opinion on that?
Well,
do you
firstly,
like they're trying to cancel you?
Well, firstly, you can't cancel people who are economically independent. I'm self-employed, so you can't cancel me. I don't need Sony Records. I don't need Universal. I don't need Facebook. I don't need Instagram. I'm not in need of anything white folks have, so I cannot be canceled, right? That's number one. And that's also the difficulty with somebody like a Kanye. He's so financially independent, he can't be canceled. Now, with that being said, I wouldn't mention my name with Alex Jones, because he is a white supremacist. And I don't even know if I would mention my name with Kanye in that I don't agree with everything Kanye does either. You understand? But I appreciate Kanye because he's the first black billionaire we have had since Michael Jackson to publicly expose and call out the untouchable community for their financial exploitation of black entertainers and athletes. I mean, the Untouchables represent 40% of the coaches of the NBA. They were the former commissioner and the current commissioner of the NBA. They have controlled hip-hop music since its inception, and even Russell Simmons admitted to that, although he presented it a different way. Russell said that had it not been for the untouchable community, hip-hop may have never gotten off the ground because they provided the seed money. What Russell left out is the reason they provided the seed money is they saw a financial payday in hip-hop, and that's why they did that. They didn't do it out of the love of their hearts, because if they did, every musician who is signed to a member of the untouchable community would own their own masters, and we know that's not the case. So the untouchable community has been exploiting black artists, especially since the 1970s, which was the birth of the hip-hop community. And so I appreciate Kanye coming out and telling the truth, that as much as they talk about how people have come against their community, they have come against ours. For example, who financed a great share of the slave ships that brought Africans to America? Who owned the insurance companies that financed our bodies as human cargo? Okay? The Secretary of War for the Confederacy was a member of the untouchable community and a very large slave-owning person. You understand me? So when people talk about being anti-this and being anti-that, sometimes we need to turn the camera on the accuser and say, well, what about your record of oppression and dehumanization against other people? Black people did not participate in your Holocaust, but you participated in ours, and we can prove it. You see what I'm saying? So I just think we as black men have to be conscious that right now there is a literal campaign against First Amendment rights for heterosexual black males that seeks to bully us into remaining silent about the things that matter. Because this, what they're doing with Kanye, what they've done with Kyrie, they are testing heterosexual black males with loss of job, loss of money, loss of reputation, loss of opportunity. Because what America wants to do, and it ain't just the untouchables, it's the entire white supremacist power structure. They want to see if they can intimidate black men into keeping their mouths shut about the things that happen to black people. And if they succeed, if we as black men give up our right to speak truth to power, they will be able to do anything they want against black people. We must stay vocal. We need to be careful how we speak, because as you know, one of the jobs of American mainstream media as a branch of white supremacy is to misrepresent the genuine opinion of black men. So the other day, clickbait, the other day Kanye was on that interview with Alex Jones. He said some things I don't think Kanye should have said. One of the things I try to do, whether I'm being interviewed with you, Breakfast Club, whoever show I'm on, I try to control my narrative by being careful with what I say. I think Kyrie did a good job of controlling his narrative. Kanye is not doing a good job of controlling his narrative. He's speaking on things that don't need to be spoke on, and he's speaking on them in a way that's giving the media the fuel they need to bury and destroy and crucify his reputation. He needs to be careful.
It's almost impulsive, kind of like.
Yes, he's strategic.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I can recommend that Kanye does, Kanye needs to spend all day watching Malcolm X interviews. Because I believe El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, Malcolm X, may have been our greatest media assassin. Malcolm would take anything the media gave him, flip it, and use it against the media. Kanye needs to study Malcolm X right now, because if Kanye is going to continue to go down this road, and I appreciate the road, because Kanye said, you cancel my $1 billion contract, I'm still not apologizing for nothing I'm said. I'm still not going to repudiate my opinion. That is powerful. That is alpha male behavior. But we need Kanye to be more articulate in his position so his words can't be used against him. Kanye needs to study Malcolm X.
Okay. And this is my last question. It's gonna be kind of.
You got a few more if you do. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. And okay, so I do music as well. And there was a senator, I believe, out of Carolina. His name is Tim Scott, and he made this speech where he said,
Republican.
Oh yeah, he is a Republican. Yes. And he made this speech where he said America's.
And I think he's a snow bunny too. He got a white wife.
I'm not sure, but yeah, that's the line is in the sand. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like they said, America is not a racist country. And then he made the argument, which is kind of like an extreme representation of what we're really fighting for, whereas that white people should experience guilt and feel bad for what they do and walk around somber. That's not what we're asking for. We're just asking for systemic change in the policies and practices to make things fair for black people and for reparations for the transatlantic slave trade, Jim Crow, etc. And I believe a lot of people say this because since there is no obvious Jim Crow laws or constitutional things that they can say, oh, racism doesn't exist, but it's very subvert, covert. So that's the first part. The second part is, you know, a lot of black Americans, we just celebrated Thanksgiving. And there's been information that come out that say, hey, Christopher Columbus didn't really discover America. He actually came here and enslaved people. They killed off a lot of the Native Americans. In Christopher Columbus' journal, there was an excerpt that said when he got here, he seen dark-skinned people with gold-tipped spears trading with the natives before he got here. And I vividly remember, that's crazy to me. He said America's. And I think he's a snow bunny too. He got a white wife. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's the line is in the sand. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like they said America is not a racist country. And then he made the argument, which is kind of like an extreme representation of what we're really fighting for, whereas that white people should experience guilt and feel bad for what they do and walk around somber. That's not what we're asking for. We're just asking for systemic change in the policies and practices to make things fair for black people and for reparations for the transatlantic slave trade, Jim Crow, etc. And I believe a lot of people say this because since there is no obvious Jim Crow laws or constitutional things that they can say, oh, racism doesn't exist, but it's very subvert, covert. So that's the first part. The second part is, you know, a lot of black Americans, we just celebrated Thanksgiving. And there's been information that come out that say, hey, Christopher Columbus didn't really discover America. He actually came here and enslaved people. They killed off a lot of the Native Americans. In Christopher Columbus' journal, there was an excerpt that said when he got here, he seen dark-skinned people with gold-tipped spears trading with the natives before he got here. And I vividly remember being in school having to fill in the blank. Who's discovered America? Christopher Columbus. And I had to write that, and I was indoctrinated. That's crazy to me, man. So I just want you to...
A couple of thoughts. You're absolutely right. Columbus actually never came to America. Columbus came to islands off the coast of America. So he came to Turks and Caicos. He'd been to a couple of other islands. Vespucci was the first European to come to American soil. Columbus never touched the United States. Okay, you're absolutely right. In the 3 voyages I believe he had, he spoke of basically African people that he saw in the Caribbean islands. Not the so-called Native Americans, but African people. He described their dark skin and their nappy hair. Native Americans don't. Enslavement of African people, the greatest unnatural disaster in human history. You don't get that without Columbus. Without Columbus, the white man never takes over this planet. And so as far as they are concerned, he is the father of the discovery of America because he basically gave them the ability to discover the world and claim it for themselves. When you look at the story of Christopher Columbus, you have in that story every aspect of white psychology: colonization, capitalism, imperialism, genocide, manipulation. Everything that Columbus did represents the political aspects of European thought. represents the political aspects of European thought and behavior. So for them, Columbus is a god, because Columbus is the forerunner of global white supremacy, and without him there is no white supremacy. So they will always celebrate Columbus. My second point, when you mentioned Tim Scott, and he's not the only one. Kamala Harris, the vice president, she also said America was not racist. Let us go back to plantation psychology. Rule 101 on a slave plantation is that the house Negro's job is to protect the interests of the slave master. Kamala Harris's job is to protect the interests of the slave master. She has a white husband. Tim Scott's job is to protect the interests of the slave master. I believe he has a white wife. You understand me? And they're not alone. You have your Shaquille O'Neals, you have your Charles Barkleys, you have your Stephen A. Smiths, you have your Candace Owens, you have your Supreme Court Clarence Thomas. You always have a handful of Negropeans who are willing to do the bidding of the power structure so as to improve their relationship to it. But here's what they need to understand. White supremacy doesn't put black people into boxes. And what I mean by that, genocide is the elimination of an entire people. Not just the poor ones, not just the dark-skinned ones, not just the enslaved ones. Genocide is the removal of all African people. So that means after they're done using Shaquille O'Neal, after they're done using Charles Barkley, after they're done using Kamala Harris and Tim Scott, Stephen A. Smith, Candace Owens, they have to be exterminated as well. Because as long as there's any African in America, you risk your population being turned black in 50 years. See, understand something. One of the reasons that black men and black women are so hated in this world is because we're the only people on earth who can reproduce ourselves within any other people. If I marry with a Latino, an Arab, an East Indian, a Native American, a European Jew, an Anglo-Saxon female, she's producing a black child. No matter what man a black woman lays with, she produces a black baby. No other group can do that. And the European in particular can only reproduce himself and his own woman. If the white man wants a white child, he can only copulate with the white woman because his genetic power is so weak that he has to stay within his community in order to reproduce himself. And that's why the gun, as the late great Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, rest in eternal peace, spoke of in her ISIS Papers book that everybody should read. The gun is the white man's equivalent to your penis. The black man's penis can change the color of an entire race in 50 years. White man can't do that. So he uses the gun for his genocide. We do not have to exterminate a people to eliminate a people. We can reproduce them out of existence. He has to exterminate them out of existence. And that's why when you look at lynchings in America, most black men hanged from trees were mostly castrated. They hung Jews, they didn't castrate them. They hung Irish, they didn't castrate them. They hung Chinese, they didn't castrate them. So why is it 99% of the time when a black man was hanged, he was castrated? Because your penis represents the eternal envy of the white man. We did it wrong. Brothers in the hood think the white man is envious of your physical size, of your genitalia. That has nothing to do with it. He doesn't envy the genitalia because not every black man is blessed with a large genitalia. What he envies is your reproductive power, your ability to go anywhere in the world and create a black nation no matter what the color of the woman. We are the chosen people. Being chosen has nothing to do with being a Muslim, a Christian, or a Hebrew. Being chosen is being a member of the original family that God put down on earth for the first time in the Nile Valley civilization of Africa. If you are amongst that family, you are chosen. Everybody knows who we are. They know that we're the people who built the pyramids. They know we're the people who made this country. They know we're the people who invented the cell phone, the internet, the helicopter, the stoplight, the gas mask, the self-lubricating engine. They know who we are. The problem is we forgot. And one of the reasons we forgot is we allowed the white power structure to desegregate our children into their public schools. Ever since 1954, when the Supreme Court overturned Brown versus Board, they've been pushing black kids into white public schools and predominantly white universities, not to give us a better opportunity, but to kill the intellectual genius of the black child. Remember, most of our inventions were created before we sat next to white children. We were creating things white kids were not even thinking about. So they had to kill that, and the best way to kill that was to desegregate the schools. And look what we've been doing ever since desegregation. Basketballs, footballs, gangster rap, and white girls.
And that's kind of where I want to go to next with the gangster rap. And that's the whole reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because I see that the media, it used to be just kind of like, okay, that's a little bit negative, but there's other vibrations. You had Souls of Blackness, and, you know, different positive conscious rap in the 90s. But now it seems like the entire algorithm of hip-hop across all platforms, whether it's YouTube, whether it's just the radio, whether if it's streaming platforms, it's all about murder. It's not even about selling drugs anymore. That was dangerous, but it's just about murder. How many people can you kill for no reason? Let's put this group against this group. Why is the music only kind of one genre, so to speak, of gangster rap or drill rap?
Gotcha.
Why is it missing, and what can we do to bring that balance back now that we have independent platforms where I could just kind of upload my own content? Why do you think that is?
Gangster rap is the soundtrack of mass incarceration. It's the soundtrack of mass incarceration. The white power structure, particularly the untouchable power structure that controls gangster rap, deliberately redirected its aim in order to have black children indoctrinated with the kill, shoot, sell dope, sexual exploitation of black girls mentality, in order to reinforce the European narrative that black men are only good for sex and dope. You understand? And unfortunately, we are playing into this because whereas the white man is motivated by power, the black man is motivated by money. We have two totally separate agendas. As I spoke to you earlier, I said the Roman Catholic schools in Detroit wouldn't sell me a school. Those schools are still for sale 6 years later because they are about power, not money. Black people are motivated by money. That's why we don't have anything. We need power. You understand? And so, unfortunately, black men are going to go down in history, and gangster rappers in particular are going to go down in history as being the only human population in the history of the world to participate in the extermination of their own public image. No other group in history has participated in the eradication of a positive image of themselves in major mainstream media. But we're doing that. And nobody's holding the gangster rappers accountable because they have money. Everybody in the black community is motivated by money. We're not motivated by loyalty. We're not motivated by integrity. We're not motivated by reputation of their own public image. No other group in history has participated in the eradication of a positive image of themselves in major mainstream media. But we're doing that. And nobody's holding the gangster rappers accountable because they have money. Everybody in the black community is motivated by money. We're not motivated by loyalty. We're not motivated by integrity. We're not motivated by legacy. We're motivated by money. I'll give you something else. The other day, California approved a reparations bill for black people. And according to what I read, they're going to give every black person in California approximately $224,000 as restitution for slavery. Now, California was not a slave-owning state, but for the support of the slave enterprise, they're going to pay reparations. There's some black people who think that's a good thing. This is a total setup and a scam. Why would you allow somebody to give you $224,000 for 500 years of abuse, exploitation, dehumanization? Why would you allow that? California has one of the highest qualities of life in America. You probably can't even buy a house with $224,000 in California. You understand? And even in other places, it might be a small house, maybe a car. So you're telling me for the hell that my ancestors went through building this country, I'm going to let you give me $224,000 for that? Now here's the trick. They're giving that money to black people so we can serve as the conduit for the recycling of that reparations into white businesses. Because what are we going to do with that money? We're going to spend it, which is why I believe the whole reparations narrative as it is now articulated is a scam and a sham.
Yeah.
Because if you are arguing or demanding a cash payout from the government for your enslavement, and you don't have any institutions or infrastructure in which you can trap that black dollar, that money automatically goes to the Arabs. It automatically goes to the Chinese, the Korean healthcare. It goes to the Jewish-owned establishments. We don't have no institutions to trap the black dollar. The black dollar circulates less than one time. So if you give me reparations, no matter how much, if the black dollar only circulates one time, that means in 24 hours,
It's gone.
all that money is gone. It's a setup. We should not be looking for cash payments for reparations. All that money is gone. It's a setup. We should not be looking for cash payments for reparations. We should be looking for land. We should be looking for wealth. We should be looking for control of natural resources. We should be looking for assets. We should be looking for a return of all black music. We should be looking for a return of all black inventions. You understand me? The benefit of the enslavement of Africans will never expire to America. And as a result of that, whatever we get as restitution for enslavement should likewise never expire. Money runs out. Money expires. And that's why money should not be on the list.
And that's why I always thought that I was the only one. Like, reparations should be systemic.
Yes! It needs to be systemic. Our enslavement gave birth to an entire system in the United States. And you're telling me that in exchange for this system, 400-500 years of white supremacy that we built, you're going to accept a one-time cash payout.
Right.
You mean to tell me you don't see the lopsided nature of that agreement? You're going to accept money for systemic benefits that came from your systemic exploitation? Mass incarceration ain't changed. Miseducation ain't changed. Gentrification ain't changed. Police genocide ain't changed. Access to wealth ain't changed. They give you that money. It addresses none of the 5 major problems black people have. So how is that money a solution? It's a trap. But you got thirsty, greedy Negroes who want some money, so they're pushing cash payment so they can get them a new Benz, a new white girl, and a new house in a white suburb.
And I always said that, like Kanye said, it made us love their wealth and hate ourselves. You know, we just so brainwashed by the materialism.
Absolutely.
That we think that's a form of compensation.
And the reason we're so brainwashed by the materialism is because white power stripped black people of their racial integrity, so much so that we feel like nobodies unless I got a Benz. We feel like nobodies unless I got a Gucci bag, some Yeezys on. I gotta have gold. I gotta have diamonds. What do you see every rapper with? A chain. And the most popular chain in the hip hop community is a white Jesus piece on top of that. So we still won't get away from white Jesus, even in the hip hop community. Why does every rapper gotta wear a chain with diamonds and gold? To remind them that they have worth. Because without that, they feel like nobody. The reason black people are so materialistic is because we're trying to compensate for self-hate with European materialism.
I always say chains represent that we still slaves. And Dr. Umar, I really admire your passion, man.
Appreciate you.
All day with you, man, just taking in wisdom and learning and spreading the truth to other people who are outside the conscious community so everybody can
and let me say this to your parents out there, because I don't know who's going to watch this. Those of you who are raising children in America's public schools, be careful of a few things. I'm going to give you 3. Number 1, children under 7 should not be getting evaluated for special education. I want to be clear. If they're not deaf, if they're not blind, if they don't have a brain injury, if it's not a speech and language impairment, they should not be getting tested. 5 and 6 is too early for reading disability. 5 and 6 is too early for math disability. 5 and 6 is too early for ADHD and conduct disorder. It's too early for emotional disturbance and intellectual disabilities. Slow down on the evaluation. The reason the schools want you to evaluate your child is because they get paid for it. Every time a child goes into special education, the school gets paid. Let me say it one more time for hard-headed black parents. Every time your child goes into special ed, the school gets paid. So of course they want to be evaluated at 3, 4, and 5. Of course they want to be evaluated at 6, 7, and 8 because they want the money. It's the parents' job to say, my son is too young to be getting tested for ADHD, too young to be getting tested for a reading disability, and at the end of the day, you can't even prove it. You can't prove a reading disability. You cannot prove an ADHD. You can't prove an emotional disturbance. And these
are the labels that they use on black boys in order to hyperactivate the school to prison pipeline. When I go speak in the prisons, I always ask the inmates, if you were in special ed, raise your hand. And almost all the hands go up because special education is the school to prison pipeline. It is it. Number two, don't get your children evaluated for ADHD. Do not get your child evaluated for ADHD. The drugs that they're giving out kill brain cells, will cause sexual dysfunction later in life, can make your son impotent, can also cause him to grow breasts because of the estrogen and a lot of the pills. There's a group of white men suing one of the drug companies right now because they develop breasts as a result of taking ADHD meds. These meds can cause tic disorders, schizophrenia, psychosis, sleeping terrors, organ failure. Why would you give your son a drug so he can sit still long enough to be miseducated by white women about Christopher Columbus? It doesn't make any sense. No ADHD, no medication, and if you get your son diagnosed or daughter and you stop giving them the medication or refuse it, guess what the school's going to do? They're going to call Child Protective Services on you. Child Protective Services is going to threaten to remove your children. And if you don't start giving them that medicine, they're going to take your children. And they're not just going to take the one child who's on the meds. They're going to take all your children. And they're going to give them to LGBTQ couples to raise. And I'm saying that on purpose because black children are more likely to end up with an LGBT foster parent than any other child. You know why? Because black people are least likely to adopt our own children. We don't adopt black kids. Black people don't adopt black kids. We are so selfish, we don't adopt black kids. So who needs